with Cleveland, came to the Indians last year, is up with 2 outs. He's 0 for 3 this postseason. There are his numbers during the regular year. He did hit 1 home run. He's the winning run at the plate, and you've got a base stealer at first in Rajai Davis.
Decent move out of Montgomery, not a good arm, Montero. Curveball delight.
Strike one.
The dirt, and if you think you've got the opportunity, steal a bag, because the odds of getting multiple hits here with 2 outs, although the Indians have done it before.
Here's the 0-1. This is going to be a tough play.
Go! Yeah!
Makes the play!
Woo!
And the Cubs have finally won all! It's 7-10.
Woo! We're finally world champions! Wait, hang on. Haha. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Just because they know, it's like dogs are like intelligent. They already know what's going on.
Yeah.
Woo! I'm gonna wear my Cubs shirt tomorrow.
Me too. Hello guys, it's Steve here. It is November 3rd, 2016. Last night was a great night because the Chicago Cubs won their first World Series in 108 years, since 1908. Now I did a video, you know, like this after the Blackhawks won the Stanley Cup after they won in 2013 and after they won in 2015. I did a video talking about it. And I'm going to do a video talking about the Cubs winning the World Series, you know. But yeah, it's their first World Series in 108 years. That was a long, 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 long time ago. Barely anybody living today was even alive then, you know. And I'm sure there are maybe a couple, but they're probably like, you know, they're probably little babies when the Cubs won the World Series, and they didn't remember it. You know, when you're a baby, you don't remember anything. You don't start remembering things till like you're 4 or 5 years old, you know. When you're a little baby, you don't know what's going on or remember anything. And if, you know, if there are people alive today who remember seeing the Cubs win the last World Series in 1908, they're probably born in, like, you know, the late 1890s or early 1900s, you know, in order to, you know, remember seeing the Cubs last win the World Series, which they're probably like 120 years old right now or whatever. I don't know. But, you know, other than that, nobody living today, even who were alive to see the Cubs win the World Series, got to see it. So nobody living today ever got to see the Cubs win the World Series until last night, you know, and it's just amazing, you know. I mean, this is unreal, you know. I mean, usually when you see the Cubs win the World Series, you end up waking up and it ends up being a dream, you know, like, you know, Cubs finally win the World Series since 1908. And then a minute later, oh, it was just a dream. And after they won last night, you know, I tried, you know, making sure it wasn't a dream. You know, I tried, you know, slapping myself to wake myself up, like, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. I couldn't wake up. It's not a dream. It actually happened, you know? But yeah, usually it's just a dream when the Cubs win the World Series, or, you know, it's just in a video game, you know? But not this time. They actually won the World Series. And, you know, they had the longest drought in North America professional sports. Probably maybe in world sports. I don't know. In the entire world, not just North America, but also, you know, Europe, Asia, Africa. I don't know. All, you know, the entire world. The Cubs had the longest drought out of any sports team in the world, and they finally ended it. But now the Cleveland Indians have the longest World Series drought now. And you gotta give credit to the Indians, you know, they did really good. They were a tough team, you know, and the Cubs were down 3-1 in this series. You know, they lost game 1. You know, I'm like, they lost game 1. I think we could bounce back. And then they won game 2. Then they lost game 3. I'm like, they lost game 3. They'll win game 4 tomorrow. I think they'll do it. And then they lost game 4. They were like down 3-1, and that's when I started feeling hopeless. I was like, oh no, the Cubs are not going to win the World Series this year. Now I got to wait till next year to see the Cubs, you know, get this opportunity again, you know. If the Cubs win the World Series, you know, I have to wait till next year to see if that's going to happen. But, you know, and the Cubs gave up a home run early in the game in Game 5. And I'm like, oh, that's it. The Cubs lost. You know, and I was already congratulating the Indians. But it wasn't over yet. The Cubs came back in that game. You know, they won Game 5. And then they won Game 6 to even the series. And then they won last night, you know. They came back from a 3-1 deficit. You know, the Blackhawks did that to the Red Wings in 2013. Now the Cubs do it to the Cleveland Indians in this year. And this is like the 3rd time that happened this year. I know that happened in the NBA Finals with the Warriors up 3-1, and the Cavaliers won 3 in a row to win the NBA championship. But, you know, I honestly don't really know what to say. And let's just talk about the game last night. You know, the Cubs, you know, they got an early lead. They hit a home run in the 1st inning, and then the Indians then later tied it at 1, and then the Cubs got like 5 more runs. You know, they have a 5-run lead, and then they gave up a couple more runs. I think it was like 5-3. Yeah, it was ended up being 5-3. And then the Cubs got another home run to have a 6-3 lead. And then going into the 8th inning, the Cubs, you know, got the first 2 outs, and the Cubs were 4 outs away from winning the World Series. 4 outs away, you know, and then they ended up like giving up a base hit or a walk or whatever, and then I think the runner ended up stealing a base. The Cleveland player like stole a base or whatever, or I don't know what happened. I just know that the Cubs were 4 outs away, and then that's when things started going downhill, and then like the Indians like scored a run on like a wild pitch, I think. And then after that, the Cubs gave up like a 2-run homer, and the Indians tied the game. And I was so pissed off. I'm like, oh no, the Cubs are gonna choke again. This is, oh no, oh no. And I started feeling hopeless. I was pissed off. and you know, and then there ended up being like a rain delay, and then after the rain delay, the Cubs got the lead back. They scored 2 runs, you know, and then the 9th inning, the Cubs were then 3 outs away. They got the first 2 outs, I think, and then I think the Indians like got a hit or whatever, kept getting hits again, and they scored another run, and then you know, and then the Cubs ended up getting that last out and winning their first World Series since 1908. You know, that was just amazing. But yeah, it was an amazing game last night, you know. I say that was like one of the best World Series games I've ever seen, next to the 2011 World Series Game 6. You know, I remember that night, the Texas Rangers were like, twice that game, they were 1 strike away, and they blew it. Like, the 9th inning, the Texas Rangers were 1 strike away, but then St. Louis got like a big hit that, they were like the Rangers were up by 2 runs too, and then the Cardinals got a big hit to score 2 runs to tie the game. And then later the Rangers, you know, got the lead again, and then the Cardinals then, you know, tied it up again with another big hit, and then David Freese hit a game-winning home run for the Cardinals, and then the Cardinals ended up winning the World Series the next night. But I remember that. That was amazing. That was like, you know, between that World Series and last night, like Game 6 of the 2011 World Series and last night, I don't know which one's better. Those are like the 2, you know, best World Series games I've ever, you know, witnessed. But, you know, yeah. And, you know, there was a lot of things that didn't even exist. Like, a lot of things today that exist today that we all use or we all go to that didn't even exist the last time the Cubs won the World Series in 1908. And I got a list of it. First thing, television. Television didn't exist when the Cubs last won the World Series in 1908. It was invented in 1927. Computers didn't exist. Computers were invented in 1945. World War I and World War II didn't even happen yet when the Cubs last won the World Series. Telephones were around. They were invented in 1876, but cell phones didn't exist until 1973. Video games didn't exist when the Cubs last won the World Series. Video games didn't exist until 1958, and then video game consoles didn't like come out until like the 70s. So there was no Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo Wii, Sega, any video game console. No video game console existed when the Cubs last won the World Series. Excuse me. McDonald's didn't exist, you know. McDonald's didn't exist until 1955. Burger King didn't exist. Burger King first opened in 1954. Wendy's didn't exist. They didn't first open until 1969. Taco Bell didn't exist. Taco Bell didn't open until 1962. White Castle didn't exist. White Castle opened in 1921. KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken, didn't exist until 1930. Popeyes didn't exist until 1972. You know, black people and white people were still segregated, you know. Blacks and whites would, you know, were not able to go to the same school, and they wouldn't eat at the same restaurants. They couldn't, you know, drink the same water fountains, work at the same place, you know. I don't even think Martin Luther King was alive when the Cubs last won the World Series, you know. You probably couldn't date outside your race, you know, at the last time the Cubs won the World Series, you know. Gay marriage was probably illegal too at the time the Cubs last won the World Series. Theodore Roosevelt was still the president of the United States when the Cubs last won the World Series. The NHL, NBA, NFL, and MLS didn't exist when the Cubs last won the World Series. You know, the NHL didn't exist until 1917. The NBA didn't exist till 1946. The NFL didn't exist until 1920, and then the MLS, Major League Soccer, didn't exist until 1993. New Mexico, Arizona, Hawaii, and Alaska were not even U.S. states yet when the Cubs last won the World Series. The Stanley Cup did exist when the Cubs last won the World Series. It was like invented in the 1890s, but again, the NHL didn't exist. There was like another hockey league or whatever, you know, that would use the Stanley Cup as a trophy. The NHL didn't exist yet. People probably still, you know, rode on horses. People still, you know, used horses as transportation. Cameras didn't even take picture in color yet. Cameras didn't start taking pictures or videos in color until like the 70s, I think, or 80s. I don't know. YouTube didn't exist. YouTube didn't exist until 2005, you know, and other social media, you know, like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, MySpace, you know, didn't exist. You know, internet didn't exist, you know. Walmart didn't exist when the Cubs last won the World Series. Walmart didn't exist until 1962. That's when it opened, and like the first Walmart opened. Best Buy didn't exist. Best Buy didn't open until 1966, and almost all these other stores that everybody goes to today didn't exist. AC/DC, Led Zeppelin, Michael Jackson, Elvis Presley, Metallica, The Beatles, The Rolling Stones, Justin Bieber, Taylor Swift, Beyonce, Lil Wayne, Chief Keef, Tupac, Maroon 5, Fall Out Boy, One Direction, Rihanna. None of those, you know, musicians like bands or artists were around when the Cubs last won the World Series. You know, there's a lot of things that exist today that just did not exist when the Cubs last won the World Series, you know? But they finally won it last night, and you know, it's just amazing. So, yeah, congratulations to the Chicago Cubs. I could care less who wins next year. I mean, of course I want to see the Cubs win another World Series, you know? After you win one championship, you want to do it again, you know? And I think this team will win more, you know? This is a very young team who's going to be good for a long time. And even if they don't win another one, hey, I'm just glad to see this one, you know? But yeah, the Cubs finally won the World Series. You know, I'd also like to maybe see the Toronto Maple Leafs win a Stanley Cup. I'd like to see, you know, the Winnipeg Jets win a Stanley Cup. I'd like to see the Philadelphia Flyers win a Stanley Cup. I'd like to see maybe the Cleveland Indians win the World Series. Hopefully maybe they can be back next year and win it all next year. I would like to maybe see the, I don't know, Toronto Blue Jays maybe win a World Series. I'd like to maybe see the St. Louis Blues win a Stanley Cup. I'd like to see the Washington Capitals win a Stanley Cup. Yeah. I also like to, see maybe the Bulls win a NBA championship. The Bulls did win when I was alive, but I was a little baby. I, don't remember it. I was born in 96. I'm 20 years old now. The Bulls, I was born a month after the Bulls won in 96, and then the Bulls won 2 in 97 and 98 when I was alive, but I don't remember it because I was a baby. And the Bears didn't win when I was alive. I hope to see them win a Super Bowl. I like to see the Chicago Fire win an MLS Cup, I really don't give a shit for soccer, football, or basketball. I'd still like to see those other 3 Chicago teams win. I saw the Blackhawks win 3. I saw the Cubs win 1. The White Sox won when I was alive, but I don't really care for the White Sox. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. Cubs are 2016 World Series champions. They finally ended the curse of the Billy Goat, and yeah. So congratulations, Chicago Cubs. There's going to be a parade, I think, tomorrow. Just like the Blackhawks did in 2010, 2013, and 2015. I don't even want to go because, it's too many people there. I don't really like being in crowds, with too many people, But yeah, see you later, guys. Goodbye.